Welcome to this week's podcast, Feeling Seen. Today I have a really exciting guest who I've just been like dying to talk to all week. So this is Daniele Forni. So did I pronounce that right?
It was pretty correct. It was pretty correct. So
Awesome. Awesome. So really, like I said, I'm really excited to talk to you. And actually, I get so many good guests on the podcast. Everyone's really exciting. So, like me, you're a late diagnosis. I'm only like 2 years in. I'm not about to tell you how old I am, but it's definitely older than you. But when you got diagnosed, did you know, or did you have an inkling that you had a diagnosis? Did it
so
change you?
it is a very interesting story, and I tell these all the time because I find these fascinating. So because autism, ADHD, and other kinds of neurodiversities are sort of like are also genetics. There is a lot of genetics, sort of like reasons why you have certain traits. And growing up, I knew that I was different. But in my family, in my extended family, I was not that different from that tribe. So my dad keeps on forgetting things. He can go sort of like reading a book and he can just like super focused and disappear. I have my grandpa who on my mother's side used to just go hunting and just go away and not tell anyone where he's going. My grandpa on my mother's on my father's side, very similar behaviors. So effectively, I grew up in an environment where my behavior of being maybe a bit more eccentric was actually kind of like standard. So no one really sort of like picked it up. And at the same time, growing up in Italy in the late 80s and 90s, neurodiversity was not really a thing yet. I was probably more like I was like a loner. I was an eccentric guy. I was probably very good with math, with computers, but that was basically just a character trait rather than a sort of like a disability or a diagnosis. So it was particularly interesting, and that is why when then my first sort of like my first daughter started to go to nursery, and we have to move house as you do when you live in London. You tend to move away from the city and go outside, and there was a big change for my life, and that triggered a lot of like problems in my own mental health that brought me to go and be seen by a psychiatrist to understand like what's going on with me, what problem do I have, and in 5 minutes he diagnosed me. So like, look, you're definitely autistic. You have ADHD. Please, let's start this process of getting all the sort of like all the official diagnosis because
Mhm.
I don't know in the US, but in the UK, I was living in the UK at the time. In the UK, there is a specific sort of like a legal framework around these kind of disabilities, and um, and uh, and then sort of like, and I was 35 years old, so it took me a little while to get used to re-understanding who I am and how I perceive things, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And just for the record, I totally know London because I'm just from south of London,
Oh, really?
in the US, but I'm actually from Winchester. So,
Ah,
very
beautiful city.
familiar, the very
Beautiful city.
north there. Yeah, it is gorgeous. Um, so did you, so I had the same thing, late diagnosis. It was actually a coworker that
Mm.
mentioned to me that they're like, "Oh, your ADHD is coming out." And I was like, "Wait, but I'm not ADHD." And they're like, "Gunnar, you are, right?" And I was like, and I went and asked my husband, and he's like, how is this a surprise to you?" I was like, so everybody kind of knew, and it's been quite a journey since, right? since you found out, have you, I mean, we're not broken, we're just wired differently, but has it changed who you are and things that you've done or do?
I think it, I wouldn't say that it's changed who I am, because I've always been like this. I think it has changed the way that I think about myself, because um, I'll give you some maybe some examples that is easy to understand. In the past, I used to get very angry and frustrated when people did not understand me, or when I could not relate to people in the same way that other people did. Like a classic trait of autism is to grow up with few friends, or with little friends, or sort of like that. I need to have some alone time during the day, away from wife and children. And before, I was getting sort of like upset that other people did not need that, you
Mhm.
know, sort of like, because I was not feeling I was not feeling heard and not feeling understood. But then what diagnosed change is that I finally could, I guess, justify the way that I behave, but also like I could control it a bit more. Like, if I understand that I'm going to blow up, I
Mhm.
can feel that now, and I say, you know what? Let me take a 15 minutes break, and I go to do something else. And this is relatively easy with adults, because they understand. With
Yeah.
my daughter was a bit different, with my eldest, because of course, when daddy says, look, it's nice you're playing Legos, but daddy needs 15 minutes on his own to do something else.
Mhm.
It took a little time to get it to sort of like for her to understand. And what I did, I basically wrote a book to try to explain to her. And again, I don't want to plug this here, but it's just like is a by the by of
I was actually gonna ask you about your book, so it's fine because they're incredibly interesting and very varied. So tell me about the one that you wrote for your for your daughter, or to explain
yeah.
to your daughter.
So I have I really loved, as soon as I was diagnosed, the psychiatrist recommended to read the book. I think it's called Neurodivergence Tribes.
Mhm.
We can maybe add the link on the podcast episode, where it talks about that in the 70s there was this idea that autistic people are actually aliens that were sent to Earth to understand how people behave. And that's why when they behave and when they talk and when they do things, they look a bit different. So the entire story of the book is basically that there is this Dan, who is a child who has been sent by alien to Earth to learn how life works, so that they can report back to the spaceship. That's the theme of the book. But it's also like a theme that really touches me very closely, because I always felt, and probably don't know whether it's something that you felt as well. I always felt different. I always felt I never really belonged somewhere, because the way that I think, the way that I operate, even at work or in my other things, is completely different than other people. And of course, this is not easy, but this idea of this being an alien sent here is quite fascinating. To the point that now my daughter goes to school and she tells all her friends that, one, I'm in Foo Fighters, which I'm not, and two, that I'm an alien, and she get upset because of or classmates say like, oh, that cannot be true. But again, at least now she understands that whenever I need to take a time off, I say like, look, you know that I'm an alien, I need to take 50 minutes off and do something else.
Go recharge your batteries. That's kind of funny. But I totally understand. where you're coming from, the frustration and all sorts of things as well. Um, because when I was younger, I think I tried to be over enthusiastic to compensate for the fact that I didn't want to, and I really wanted to just go and do my own thing. Um, and when you're a parent, an adult, an employee, a husband or wife, that kind of looks selfish, right? When you're like, I need my own 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. Um, Definitely getting a diagnosis for me helped me understand a lot more. And I enjoy those 15 minutes or whatever it is. So tell me about your other book, because I work in SEO. I mean, everything for
Yep.
me is data, 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 or data, but I wouldn't say that. I would say data. Uh, and I like it because it's trends and it's patterns and all sorts of things. Do you think you're, because I mean, you work in banking, you work with AI, you published a book on data. Do you think the your autism has affected your love of data, like powered it on?
Oh, for sure. I think um uh, so at least for me, but I feel that one of the strongest autistic traits is the try to recognize patterns.
Hmm.
And and the second thing is that by using data, you don't need to deal with people too much, you know?
I know, I know.
Yeah. So that's why sort of like even though I studied languages, by the way, university.
Okay.
Then I went on to study economics. But over time, as I was at work, I find myself more comfortable coding.
Hmm.
I self-taught. I was a self-taught coder, so I used to use R, Python. And that's something that I really enjoy. Even now that I have a team and I run projects, I really try to set aside that 20% of my time just doing coding myself. And that's basically the equivalent of the 15 minutes time with my daughter. I have this 20% every day or every week that I just do coding because I don't want to, it's a bit too overwhelming to deal with people all the time. And and the other thing that probably is another autistic trait, in addition to patterns and not dealing with people, is about structure. So what I like about the coding about data is that everything is quantifiable. Again, it's quantitative, but everything you can measure it. You can put it into calculation. You can set up processes, and you're relatively independent when you do these kind of things, especially in my line of work, which is mostly around data science and analytics. And I think it fits perfectly well. And not only that, but I think it is a superpower in that particular space because the way that I can see certain things or fix certain problems, it's very, very different than what other people do. And at the same time, I can see that a lot of people in my sort of like in my space, they also have neurodiversities. It can be autism, can be ADHD, can be dyspraxia, can be dyslexia, simply because it comes more, I guess, more natural. There is sort of like this power of understanding,
Mhm.
uh, quantitative things rather than people, I guess.
No, I mean that absolutely makes sense. And honestly, the more I talk to people, around the whole neurodiverse thing, the more I realize, oh my God, how did I not know this before? Um, so I work in SEO. I have a team. They can do all sorts of stuff. But you're right, it's overwhelming. You're on meetings, calls, emails. And as the day goes on, the more I do, the less maybe tolerance I have
Yeah.
to the fluff and the extra. And I just want to do the data. So I do the same thing. I will go look at the data from the SEO, from the traffic, spend 20 minutes in a problem that I could delegate to somebody on my team, but it just pulls me back in. And my background is coding too. So I totally understand A, where you're coming from on that, and B, what it's like because it's I don't know, it's patterns. You see things that people don't necessarily see, and they're never quite sure how you get there to the answer, but you can explain it. But again, data is great because you can argue data. Well, you can misrepresent data, but you can't argue it. Whereas if you don't have it, then you have to convince people in words, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. And when I started to go around to talk in various conferences about data, risk management, um, I started to realize that everyone has got the same problems with data. We all think in our organization that our problems are all very specific and bespoke to whatever fancy processes that we have, but instead we all like share the same issues, and that's why it then prompted to write the book, which was effectively 11 things that we do wrong when we deal with data. Because basically, after a while, that I was like talking to these executives in other banks or insurance companies, I was like, wait a second, everyone has got the same issues, but also I could sort of like formalize some solutions, which often, again, maybe this is not probably an autistic trait, but the solution is often very, very human,
Mhm.
because we always think that data is something that lives in a world of zeros and ones.
Yeah.
Instead, all of the data that we have is ultimately originated by human
Yeah.
in a way or another, maybe through different processes, through different steps, but it starts with a person that has decided to do something or has set up a processes that does something. So if that process, if the thing does not work or there are some problems, it's not the data's fault. It's rarely the data's fault. It's always like trying to look at somewhere else.
That makes sense. Now you said data all the time. So your book is it data or data? Or I
Yeah.
mean, on the same word.
Ah,
Which is it? Which is it?
for me is data, but I have an Italian accent, so I shouldn't be counted in in
I
these
say data. I say
I
data.
say, I say data too. A few people say data, but some people do. Some people do.
Yeah, a lot of
Maybe it's more
Americans
like a
say
US
data.
thing.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is definitely a US thing. All right, so you've got children. You
I
work.
do.
You've written several books, and I think you're working on another book. You
Yes.
have a podcast around hiking in Hong Kong. You said your superpower is the ability to spot patterns, but that's a lot to juggle there. I mean, is it espresso really? Is that your superpower?
It is. I look. The funny thing that I'm very the discussion is sort of like as I'm actually off work because I went through a burnout. I
Mhm.
guess that's the right word, because I was doing too many things, as you noticed. Um, uh, and again, it's usually I manage to do it okay. Then, of course, if other things like personal life and other situation comes in, then of course it makes things more messy. But I call it a superpower, but sometimes I find it is a bit of a curse. And this, I think, is mainly the ADHD that is playing in my head. I just need to be active. I just need to do stuff. I like to create. That's why when I think about, like, if I was born like 500 years ago, I would have been an artisan. I would make, I don't know, armors. I would be a blacksmith. I would be like a carpenter, because I really enjoy the process of creating something from scratch,
Mhm.
to the point that I get into very, again, some people might call it like odd things, but I make my own watches
Okay.
from scratch. Last couple of weeks ago, I went online and I said, I would like to buy a hat. And then I went to learn and I said, like, how difficult it is to build a hut from scratch. So I went on YouTube. I went on London, central London, because I was in London a couple of weeks ago to buy the
Mhm.
material. Went home and I started to sort of like I need to have these avenues of creation. But I think is at the end of the day is a way to express myself. Is a way to express myself and to have these sort of like these release valve for my creativity. Um,
No, no, that makes sense for sure. Do you
uh,
get so you say you get overwhelmed. Do you always finish your projects or do they become 90% done?
Excellent question. So I again I blame or I thank this because I'm a mountain boy. I come from the mountains, so we are very perseverant.
Okay.
So we have a lot of grit, and so I always did it. Sort of like I always finished my projects most most of the time. Then when I started to get on the ADHD medications, then I started to really be more effective and happy about that. I give an example. The first book that I wrote, it was a children's book to teach coding for kids. It was, I think, during COVID, the first year of COVID, something like that. And I was not diagnosed yet at the time. I didn't have any medication and anything. And that was very hard. I finished it, but the pain of finishing it, it was very complicated. On the other hand, like the book, again, the children's book about autism, that one came out like in 80% of it came out in the morning. I was in the morning, I was chatting with my aunt, great aunt in Australia, and she was talking to me about some of our um, uh, nephews there that got autism, and I was like, well, I might as well explain it. So, sort of like, I think now, even though I always finished what I started, now I find it much easier. I find it much easier to focus. But for the reason, I also find it much easier to add more stuff, to do more stuff. So my wife and my boss at work told me that I need to chill out, relax, do something that you like, that is not creating or work.
Okay.
It's a learning process.
Yeah, I mean, again, I see. I have a fear of finishing projects, right?
Really?
Yeah, I get like 90% through it, and then I worry that I don't have another project, right?
Ah,
And
that's interesting.
I end up with like all these projects which aren't complete, and so I've got a bench in my screen porch that I've not quite finished, but I have all the bits. I do Google Maps. That's one of my things I like to do reviews, but it gets to a level 10 and then there's nothing after level 10. So I've been stuck at level 9 3/4. I feel like Harry Potter now. 9 3/4 for like 2 years because then I'm scared of completing the project because I don't know what I'm going to do next. So,
That is
Mm.
that is
Yeah.
fascinating. But if you don't mind me asking, do you take medication for your
I do not.
ADHD or
No, I do not. Because I'm a late diagnosis and I like who I am. My frustration came honestly in the past when I didn't get what I wanted because people didn't understand what I was saying, right? Everything was in my head, but when I presented it, shared it, and people didn't understand it, it's like same with you, like data and all sorts of things. Um, Knowing that I'm ADHD now has helped me be better at communicating.
Yep.
I call it the fluff. Before I was very much fact, 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 done, do, right? Um, Very efficient, very quick to get through it. That doesn't work for other people. Kind of gets it back up. So that's one of the things I've learned through this journey is you have to take the time, explain a little bit more, listen to people, ask the questions, even if I think I know what the answer is, even if I do know the answer, you still have to bring other people in. So not medicated, but learning, still on a
Uh,
journey,
uh,
still discovering.
have you ever tried?
Did you?
Have you ever tried?
Mm, tried.
Sorry, tried the
Have I
medications?
tried meds? No. Um, Honestly, I'm a little scared. I'm
Interesting.
scared of changing me. I like
So
who I am.
let so I'm very I completely understand where you're coming from because when it was not so much the ADHD medication, but it was the medication for OCD
Mhm,
that I was very relatively worried to take them. But what I realized after taking them is that actually I am still myself. I'm not changing my personality. I'm not changing
mhm,
who I am. I'm just changing the way my brain processes things. But it's not like all of a sudden I become like I don't know. I become like I want to learn tango, which I hate
mhm,
dancing, by the way. It's just that I maybe become a bit happier, a bit more chilled, and
mhm,
the way that my psychiatrist at the time, I guess, sold me the ADHD medication, he told me like they're like glasses. You don't see well, and the medication helps you see better. And that's effectively what happens because if I take them, I try to take them, I take them every day because sort of like they help me uh,
mhm.
get through with things. But honestly, I feel like I'm more myself on the medication because I can see things and I can do things in the way that actually I really want them to be done. Um, that's why sometimes only with the ADHD I realize that when we call neurodiversity often a disability, it is actually a disability. It's like I have, I don't know, uh, 2 out of 20 vision. And of course, I need glasses. And
Mhm.
that's so again, I'm not here to convince you, I guess, but I would really recommend just to think about it because um, um it's just an aid.
Yeah, no, I get that, and it's definitely something maybe I might investigate. I guess because I mean I'm in my 50s, right? And I don't know. I do have a good job that I love. I have a great family. I definitely have learned a lot more about myself with the diagnosis. It's definitely something comes up more in conversation, and my family understand more why I need that 15 minutes and why sometimes a little short and all sorts of things. But I do think the path, the learning, the understanding, the research, and also has made me happier,
Hmm.
for sure. So there has been a positive impact of knowing um, how far that goes, how good that gets, how great I turn out to feel and be. I don't know. But at this moment, I'm probably gonna hold from taking the meds, just still do this journey of self-discovery and all sorts of things. So
But
I think um I think I have one more question for you
of
because
course,
I want to take all your time, but trust me, I could talk to you all day. Uh,
me too. Likewise, likewise.
um, so looking back in your childhood and throughout your life, was there ever a moment you wish you had known that you were neurodiverse and done something differently? And you don't have to give me exact facts, but was it like a wow moment? Like, I wish I hadn't done. Me as a kid, I was the kid bouncing off the wall. I set fire to my chemistry book. I did all sorts of things. I was so bored. It was just like, oh my God, give me something more to do. And now I have like a fidget toy and all sorts of things. And doing the podcast is like the hardest for me because
Mhm.
I'm not used to sitting still this long, right? Um, it's just like I
Well,
accept that.
you just need to see my legs. My legs are like bouncing up and down, left and right. I'm like a duck. That
But I totally get that. But any moment in your past that you would have changed, had you known?
So this is a very, very insightful question because when I got diagnosed, I went through I guess, the 5 stages of grief,
Mhm.
and one of them was I was upset that why no one noticed that before, why I was not diagnosed before. I was quite, and I didn't know who to be angry with, because of course it's not my parents, it's not my GP in Italy, like I understand. But what I sort of like, all those times that I was bored, all
Mhm.
those times that I really struggled to get things done, to graduate university, to finish a homework, to do something, actually first made me who I am today. And I cannot and I don't want to change that, because I think I like uh, who I am. And the second thing is that I was, if I known that at that time, I would have built justification not to try harder.
No, that makes sense. I mean, there's definitely things I would have changed. But I also think my ADHD was part of my superpower. I mean, when I went to uni, I had a child, I was a single mom, I was like working nights, going to uni, looking after a
Oh my
kid,
God.
and it was like, I mean, not nonstop. So I don't think I would have changed anything. But I wish I would have known why I was
Mm,
slightly different. Um, the other thing that probably I think I've missed out a lot of stuff from not being sociable, right?
mm,
Not being able or interested, right? I felt like a lot of time I was faking being sociable just because that's what everybody else did. But yeah, it's crazy journeys, man. Crazy journeys.
yeah, actually,
Sure.
I will change my answer then. I
Okay.
agree with you. The sociable, the social aspect of it, yes, I would have liked to have known it,
Yeah.
because it is, again, being a neurodiverse is one of those strange things that you would like human contact, but you cannot tolerate human contact.
You're
So
right.
you're always in
You want
between.
it, just not all the time.
Exactly. And that's why my closest friends, my really closest friends, one is autistic and the other one is bipolar. Like,
Oh
these are
wow.
like the really closest one, and that's because we understand. So like, we understand where they're coming from, even though we don't talk about it,
Uh-huh.
but we tolerate each other,
It's
and we.
surprising how many of my friends fit somewhere in the spectrum. Um, but I didn't know till I told them. And when I did tell them, they're like, "Yeah, me too. I'm this or whatever." So crazy world. I guess we all attract, right? Uh,
It is attraction.
His attraction. Well, it's been absolutely amazing speaking to you. I know you're on vacation, holidays this week. I know it's super early in Hong Kong, so I really appreciate you coming and talking on the podcast today. And it's been fantastic. So
Good.
enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. It's been a great conversation. Thank you very much again for inviting me.